Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic, TBC Classic, and its community. I am Bobby, also known as Blazing Bob, and today, Ryan, aka Cognitive Pit, has graced us back with his presence once again. How are you doing?
Well, I went off on my solo career and failed within 7 days, so I'm back here and I'm doing good. We're recording on Saturday afternoon, so you'd think that I'd be awake for this, as opposed to our Friday nights at the end of the work week where we're back break, our backs are broken, we're tired, but nope, just as tired on a Saturday. So let's roll through.
At least you're consistent.
Yeah, but we are glad to have you back. There were a lot of listeners that were a little worried about you. Came in my stream, asked if you were okay, and I was like, no, he's okay. So it's glad to have you back. And we're also joined by Mel, aka Melarina. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm kind of glad to have you back.
And for the first time, we are joined by Dunedain. How are you doing, brother?
Hello, man. I'm doing good. I'm honored to be here, honestly. So thanks for that.
Awesome.
Looking forward to it.
If you haven't heard of Dunedain, he does the awesome podcast with Cargos, Def Camp, and Melderon, Good Morning Azeroth. And so if you haven't checked that out, you probably should, because it's really good. It's not every week, it's kind of like, it comes when it comes, and you just kind of have to watch out for it. But you can find that either on Cargos's YouTube, or you can find it on Def Camp and Melderon's Apple Podcasts, Def Talk. All right, well, with that being said, this episode there's a lot of news, a lot of crazy news, stuff that we were not expecting. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that's basically, we're just gonna talk about all of the news because there's a ton, and then we're gonna at the end we're gonna get to know Dunedain. And then if we have time, we have a couple extra things we might talk about, but I don't want to tell you just in case we don't get to it. So without further ado, let's get into reviews.
Yeah, so I'm super excited for the reviews this week because we've got a really wonderful alliance showing. But the first review, it is from Goomed from Grovulus, but he says, great stuff. You guys are great. I listen to you guys all the time while I'm at work. Definitely need some more bingo content. That stuff cracks me up. I definitely agree. We need either bingo back on, or he's got to start messing up more in raid again. And then hopefully Steelwolf comes back on, because that guy was hilarious too. Hope you guys keep continuing because the content is fire. P.S. for the Alliance! From Doom, from Grovulus. Thank you so much for your review. Definitely agree on everything you said.
Yeah, well, and what's crazy is that the bingo content, we didn't make it up. It was real stuff that was happening, and now he just doesn't make as much mistakes. And so, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, we'll put him on a new class for TBC, and maybe we can get out a little more
plenty
content.
of new content.
Just squeeze out every drop of content Bingo's got. The next review is an interesting one. It's one that got mailed in, literally in-game mail to us, which we appreciate. Yo, Bob, Mel, and of course, Yip, Heart. The order. I understand, but I thought I would send in a review via mail, something different. 5-star, of course. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Bloody, love the podcast you guys run. I've been listening from the start, and I must say, I'm eagerly waiting every week for each episode. I love how laid back you all are. It feels like I'm right there with you. I can't wait to listen to the stories that TBC will unveil. And best of luck crushing the content. Keep up the great work. Quantum, I think it's quantum of the Alliance on Oracle, but there's like an N at the end, so it might be like quantum of the Alliance on Oracle. Thank you. I'm so happy.
Look at that.
We're getting more Alliance coming in here. And then finally,
this was crazy though, like that it came in game to me, and I was just like, okay, well, I guess I'll put it on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, people finding new ways to review, we definitely appreciate it. If you want to send us, cut out letters from a magazine in a ransom letter form, you can mail that in.
That'd be awesome.
Can we just point out that his name is WC Reloaded?
Yeah,
He made a
yeah.
tune
I think
called
he had to
W2
make a
Reloaded.
tune. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
love it.
and then finally, we have one from Rockets on the Warcraft radio reviews. As someone who missed out on everything WoW up until last year, this podcast really helps me with all the info I don't know. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and having such a great group of people involved in the show. It's always a good time, and I'll be coming to this podcast to help me through TBC for the Alliance again. Living in a mud hut sounds so uncivilized. And you know what? Listen, in 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 vanilla WoW, I get it. Okay, you know, there a lot of these people are nomadic. That it hasn't been that long since they've come to Azeroth. But even in retail, Orgrimmar is still sticks and mud. So come on, how long do they need to get up to par with us? I think
It's a good
I
point.
have to totally agree. There's some leeway in there, but it's like 30 years in the future in retail now, and they're still living in Orgrimmar. So I agree. But thank you guys so much for your reviews.
Yep. From 3 different locations this week. That was crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to skip what we've been doing this week because I feel like the news is just we're going to be able to tell you what we've been doing this week through the news. And so we're just going to kind of skip that. I also think it's going to be a jam-packed episode, so I just want to be careful. So with that, let's move into the news. So, to me and Yip's crazy surprise, patch 1.3.7 dropped, and it's a big patch. It comes with the Chronoboon Dispenser, comes with, or is that how you say it? Displacer. Sorry. And it comes with the removal of spell batching, like all this stuff that we really just didn't expect to come before pre-patch. They had said it would come before TBC, but we didn't expect before pre-patch. And a lot of people have pointed out to me that it did say patch 1.13.7, which would make you think that it's not pre-patch because pre-patch is 2.0, which I do get that logic, but it's still just it was weird for it to come in. So let's just start off.
I mean, the big thing though is that 1.13.7 I feel like was on the PTR even before TBC was fully announced. Am I crazy? Like, this is how long this has been on the PTR. Yeah. So from my perspective, I was like, well, of course they're not going to call it 2.0. Like they just wouldn't do that if it was 2.0.
Yeah. So let's just kind of go through each of them because, do you want to start off with the big one, the Chronoboon Displacer, because this changed our entire night in Nax this last week.
Yeah, so the Chronoboon Displacer came out, which we have talked about before, but we under the impression that they were coming out only on the classic era servers, though. And we were not under the impression that they'd be coming out for our raids, that we'd be using them. But they work pretty simply. You can get them from Chromie. I think they're 10 gold. And what they do is actually save your buffs. So they save your Dragon Slayer buff, Rallying Cry, War Chief's Blessing, Spirit of Zandalar. They save like your Fellwood buff and things like that. So what you can do is once you have a buff or a group of buffs, you click the Chronoboon Displacer. It stores those buffs and creates a new item that will reactivate those buffs for you. So there's a couple fun ways to cheese it, where if you have multiples of them, you can store and reactivate and then store them together and things like that. But just the baseline way to use it, you get your buffs, you store them, and then you're allowed to go play the game again. You won't be dispelled.
Weird.
You can walk into Nax and then turn your buffs on. So you can literally just walk into Nax. We don't have to summon anybody anymore. But yeah, that's the Chronoboon Displacer. Pretty huge change to the buff meta.
It is wild because I've never gotten Songflower with all of my buffs, and I was able to get it because I was just able to go with the buffs I already had or prior and just able to grab it. You do have an hour cooldown on storing buffs. There's no cooldown on restoring buffs. Like, you could do that. If your hour cooldown's down, you could restore your buffs with a new buff, then rebottle them. I did have a bug with Addy Bags where it was showing the hour cooldown and I had to log out and log back in, but I found out that Bagnon did not have that bug, and just the regular UI didn't either. But I used 3 of them and was able to have an hour and 57 minutes of every buff. Like I only lost like 3 minutes off at most off each buff, and that was nuts. Did you have any experience with this, Dunedain?
Yeah, it was quite interesting. So the first time we used it was last week's Wednesday's raid, obviously. Probably everyone tried when everyone tried it out. So we tried something different in Nax. We had all our healers keep the buffs for Saffron and KT, because you can now basically run with half the raid with buffs for the first half of the raid, and then have the other half use it in the second half of the raid.
Oh, you did half and half. Interesting.
Well, not exactly half, but we had all melee use it in the beginning, and then asked the range TBS, the mages, the warlocks, to keep it. Some kept it, some didn't, and then all healers kept it for Saffron and KT, because Saffron is like the most healing intensive fight usually.
Yeah.
And that worked out very, very well for us. We noticed that spell batching was huge, but we get there later, I suppose. But yeah, honestly, that in itself was great. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, was it felt so much more relaxing just not having to log in like 30 minutes before the raid, get the buff, get the summon, log out, then do the whole raid setup and all that stuff. You could just fly there, run in, stay logged in.
It felt wrong. It felt so wrong. I was like, I got summoned to Nax, and I was like, well, should I PvP a bit before I go in? Because I'm here like a half an hour early. Maybe I'll just mess around with the horde outside for a bit. I was just like, this is weird. I should feel scared, but I don't at all.
Yeah, I logged in. I like zoned into the instance, and I like immediately went to like log out, and I was like, oh, I don't have to log out now. I can just stay and look around.
It's an absolute huge relief. I wasn't expecting it to come, and when it came, I was like, oh, weird. Like this patch is coming before pre-patch. It's bizarre. But there was just this immediate sense of relief of being, even though I didn't have any buffs yet, and I still had to buff like right before raid practically, just being able to store them so I could get there and 2 raids safely. It was just a huge relief. We actually had a little bit of a different strategy. Not everybody had enough displacers for this, but our biggest struggles are we really like to have world buffs in A-bomb for patchwork, and then we really need world buffs for 4 horsemen. And then that's really it. 4 horsemen is really like the real big problem for us. I think that if we don't have buffs for, we're pretty worried. So we
have done it without buffs once.
Yeah, once or twice,
scary.
but it's always after wipes too. Like it's never just like, hey, let's try it without world buff, and then it works. It's always a little bit of a struggle. So we like to have them for that. So we spent the first hour with buffs. So we did A-bomb, then we did Plague Wing, and then we stored our buffs, and then we did Spider Wing, we did Resuvius and Military. And then we turned our buffs back on for Gothic, 4 Horsemen, Saffron, and KT, and it was perfect. It was like exactly what our guild needed to be able to do everything hard. It shaved like 30 minutes off our max time. Nuts. We're finishing way early. It's just, this is a huge improvement, and we're not going to have to rebuff anymore, which is what we've been having to do to one night. So this is just such a huge boost to our raid nights.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's also a stealth nerf to Nax, right? Which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Which personally, was why I thought it wouldn't come out, but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I think it's a good thing or a bad thing. Nax is quite expensive, it's quite hard, but I like the raids to be hard, so I rather had them just remove world buffs, if I'm totally honest. But this is already this is a very, very much a relief. So I'm happy either way. I wanted to say.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like the fundamental premise of it, and whether or not I like that Nax is easier. It's like, yeah, I probably don't like these things, but when it comes to the practical raid that I'm going to, it's just like, this is kind of nice. Like, this is, I'm benefiting directly from it. But yeah, I mean, it definitely does make things a lot easier. And then, like I said, we're already doing decently in Nax. It just is making us do even better. So it is kind of sad, but it's also a relief.
I guess it's far enough into progression now that it doesn't matter too much, that it's a little bit easier. It might even feel good to just be able to do it on one night and get over with it. And then we wait for TBC and things will eventually get harder, I suppose.
Yeah, it'll help like people from burning out and things like that going into TBC.
And I don't think it's actually going to hurt the speed run meta. Now, something we'll talk about later, batching. Probably might, but I don't think it's going to hurt the speed running meta because they're already doing that in under an hour speed runs. So I mean, it's not really, even they don't even lose song flower when they're doing it. So I don't think it's going to affect that, but there's going to be effects across the board that we're not even going to fully realize for weeks because of this, because there's going to be so many different ways. Like I didn't even think about having, a certain part of the raid pop them and then a certain part of the raid not pop them. I mean, that's huge too. There's so many different ways we could be using this, and it's going to be interesting. Another thing that I thought was weird was that you can see everybody's buffs and the time on them. Yeah. Like if you hover over them. Now, what I didn't check to make sure is if that was a Nova world buff add-on thing, or if it was actually you could just see it normal in-game UI. Did anybody check that? Did anybody turn off Nova, or does anybody not have Nova?
I don't have that, but I didn't notice anything. I didn't look for it, to be honest. I didn't notice anything different, so probably it is then.
Okay, so when you click on somebody that has them stored, you can hover over it. It'll show you their buffs and their buff durations.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he didn't notice, but we'll have to recheck.
Stu says you can do it without Nova.
Okay, yeah, cool. So okay, cool, yeah, then it is. So when you store them, it just becomes another buff that lists all your buffs, so you can see what everyone else has. But I mean, that's
the last kind of cool thing that I wanted to bring up about it, and it's something I didn't think about at the time, but now I do think about it, is Chromie is super PvP town now. I mean, it's it gets taken over by Alliance, it gets taken over by Horde. It gets, at least on our server, but on servers that don't have balance, I gotta believe that Chromie's gotta be a pain in the butt for the 20% faction.
We had somebody in our guild say something funny about like Western Plaguelands and Chromie's house is the Horde's last griefing attempt. It's like they're on their last leg of how they can grief people, and they were literally just 80 Horde around raid time around Chromie, which was kind of a pain, just griefing everybody trying to get in there. So
maybe there won't be as many at the island.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's at the ZG Island, but I think that this is like a temporary thing. You can go there and purchase like 100 of them and bring them back for other people, right? So it's sort of just the first couple weeks maybe, but people will just get extras early, and then it won't be as big of a deal. But I was surprised, and I don't know why I didn't think about it when I was flying up there, that there would just be raids of Horde waiting to murder me.
Yeah,
always.
And it's going to be funny, too, because I thought about this, too. Sorry, I keep dragging this on, but there's just so much to this. But if you... Okay, so Dispellers were still pretty heavy on Tuesday, but as a week or two goes by, they're going to stop kind of wasting their time coming. And then people might be like, well, do I need to spend the 10 gold to put the buffs away? They might start getting a little more lax with it. I'm kind of curious about how that's going to play out, too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already pretty lax. I'm getting all my buffs, storing them, and then I'm showing up to raid. Maybe I'll use an extra one for Songflower, but I don't find like the extra 5 to 10 minutes anything that's like super useful for me personally. So I'm already not min-maxing, whatever the opposite of min-maxing is. I'm max minning. I'm trying to do the minimum as maximum as I can.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll probably end up still raid logging. I'll get Song. I'll bottle it. I'll go get DM buffs, bottle them. Then I'll probably just get Ani and ZG and then not bottle them. And then just probably log. And then if I need to help somebody or run somebody through something, then I could go ahead and use a third to bottle Ani.
Well, what if we don't summon you anymore, though?
Oh, well, then yeah, I would definitely use 3 then at that point, because you lose the most time on DMF, you know, and so I guess I could do DMF, bottle, do song, and then do, you know, the other 2 and then bottle and just use 2. I'll just have to kind of see. I'm
just get all your buffs and bottle them at once, Bob. Do yourself a favor.
Well, someone also brought up getting 2 DM buffs. Is that possible?
It was possible to get 2 ZG buffs, but I'm pretty sure they hot fixed that pretty quick.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. For me, I feel like this, I don't know if this was intended to come out now from Blizzard, or if potentially the pre-patch is delayed and they're giving people something to hang on to, so they're not as pushing for the pre-patch to come out now.
I don't like that.
I know that's the very negative opinion. Look.
Just bottle that one back up.
Yeah, there's news we're going to talk about later that pretty much debunks that, but we will get to that when we get there. But all in all, like, I talked some smack on this, but I was grinning ear to ear on Tuesday, and so you know, I mean, it's pretty cool. There was one bummer, just to mention, it doesn't really matter, but Slipkick's savvy buff from DM was bugged if you had him ice trapped. They fixed it pretty quickly, but it was kind of a bummer for some people's raids on early Tuesday. So yeah. All right, well, it's okay. The other things that came out was they finally changed beneficial buffs to be prioritized, similarly to how debuffs are prioritized on bosses and such. And this is something that I think a lot of people would have loved early on, but you know, it's cool we're getting it now, I guess. But
yeah, I don't know if like a lot of not tanks understand this. It's a huge issue for tanks because there is a relatively small buff limit to how many buffs it's possible to get on your character. Things like renew and rejuvenate would actually push your world buffs off. So the way that beneficial buffs got pushed off was literally just in the order that you got them. So the most unfortunate thing is you'd normally get your world buffs first. So, and they would always get pushed off right at the beginning if you ended up having too many buffs. So our first patchwork, I think I had 2 world buffs get pushed off me just because I was over buffing myself. Like I was using like the 120 health elixir of fortitude, I think is what it's called, just because I wanted every little extra benefit I could get, and then that in turn knocks off the most important buffs that I had. So it's nice they're now doing a priority system where you're not going to have like a renew knock off your Flask of the Titans, I guess.
So now I don't have to feel bad when I renew people.
Exactly. Unless it's broken, which I haven't done any tests.
I'll try it on you all next Tuesday. Okay, yep. I'm just going to constantly renew you, see if I can kick off some of your buffs.
I think that's a very good change. We used to have problems with tanks, just like you said, losing buffs because druids and priests using basically their toolkits, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was always we as a guild, we always try to make it possible for everyone to play their class as it should be played, and therefore it should be possible for druids to use rejuve and regrowth and all that stuff. So we asked tanks to not go to that buff cap. And if they did, well, they would lose buffs, and then so be it. But I think this is a very good change. I don't know why they don't just up the buff limit. That might also work. Yeah, I guess.
that could work too. Well, and also it got worse in Nax because of the set
Tier
bonuses.
3.
Yeah, and they all have their little extra buff. But sorry, yep, you were gonna say?
Nah, I don't remember anymore.
It's super important.
Something about the buff cap limit, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, so like the buff limit is already almost all of the beneficial buffs. It really is just like the hots and stuff on top. So increasing the buff limit wouldn't be like, hey, now I can get 10 times as many world buffs. Increasing the buff limit would just be like, now I can get hots on me. So yeah, increasing the buff limit would not really change too much other than people being able to use their full toolkit is all I was going to say is, there's not some secret extra benefit that people would really be getting. Maybe like I said, like 120 health for elixir, nothing too crazy.
Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
So also in the Mark of the Champion, Rune of the Dawn, and Seal of the Dawn, which are all the different Argent Dawn trinkets that give you the buff that lets you get Scourge Stones, they all are now passive. Now, I was under the impression this was already changed, but I guess it wasn't. And I'm also kind of wondering, like, my numbers were quite a bit off, which I'll talk about maybe the actual reason here after this, but my numbers were quite a bit off, and I had Songflower last week. I really felt like my 150 attack power towards undead was not actually active, and I just wondered if I haven't heard anything if they found a problem, but I just wondered if they made that buff passive, and then all of a sudden my attack power is passive also, but. That's just me with a tin foil hat on.
Bob's DPS wasn't that high this week. There must be a bug in the game.
I actually think it's what we're going to talk about next, and I'll talk about that, which is actually a much more comical reason that my DPS was low, but. Was anybody else thinking that this was already changed and just didn't realize it wasn't?
I knew it wasn't changed. This was actually this along with the Heigan change was actually one of the reasons that I was very unsure of myself about this being like pre-patch changes, because I was like, why would they put the Heigan change and the like Mark of the Champion change in the pre-patch notes? And I was hoping they would separate them out at some time. So it did make sense. I knew it wasn't in yet, and that it was only in the PTR, but it does seem like something that they would just hotfix. It doesn't seem like it should have sat on the PTR for a long period of time. So it's kind of weird that it did, but I mean, I'm glad it's out.
Do you have any thoughts? Dude, I can't talk. Dunedain?
On the Seal of Down stuff.
Yeah. That buff being passive and not part of the buff cap.
I have no idea about that. I'm a healer. I don't pay attention to those kind of things.
Gotcha.
Same.
Okay, well then let's move on to the one that's huge. So spell batching has been removed. For anybody that doesn't know what it is, spell batching was where many moves on the global cooldown list were set to a 400 millisecond batch, so almost a half of a second. That's now been reduced to 10 milliseconds. Now, what that means is that when you hit your button, it actually does something. You don't have to wait for it to batch. And this is probably the reason that my DPS was lower, and something I didn't even think about when asking for no spell batching is that my old man reflexes probably benefited from the 400 millisecond batch, whereas now I have to hit my buttons faster, and the old man in me just can't do that. I thought that was kind of a funny realization.
That's interesting. I noticed the opposite thing. Our rate DPS, our trash kills, everything was way faster, and
I did notice that too.
Okay.
Yeah, our overall was definitely better. It was faster.
Yeah, I'm talking about my old man skills, personally.
See, it felt like mages did a lot more damage specifically, and I can't understand why that would be, because even with spell batching, you would still be able to land your spells, right? So, I mean, I don't quite understand how damage suddenly improved because of that. I can say from a healing perspective, it felt really good, especially as paladins. Also, no more multiples, what's it called? Blessing of Protection, I suppose. We didn't have it anymore, and it just felt like playing a different game. Being the master looter, it immediately looted. Was
weird. What the heck? Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it felt really nice. change ever, in my opinion.
I noticed it when buying my regents. I was like, oh, they're all here real fast. Not
I don't know if like it's the problem for me is like I don't know how much is a placebo effect, right? Like we know spell batching got removed, so I don't know how much is just in my head. But for me, taunt was like the biggest, most noticeable thing. Is that if I taunted, the mob would turn to me right away. I could prevent things from happening. Whereas before, it sort of felt like every time I taunted, like it wasn't going to come out in time. It would come out after whatever the reason I was taunting for. Oh, something's going to a healer. I taunt, and it's like, come on, let's go. But it seems super snappy. Everything was just really, really good. I don't know.
It also felt like it's something that I noticed on Heigan. It felt like. So Heigan, whenever he would be kited by our tank, would always kind of delay a bit when the tank moved. And it seemed like he went after him immediately now with batching gone, almost like the mobs were on a batch too or something like that.
Oh, that's interesting. I did notice that Heigan was moving a little bit differently this week, but we'll kind of have to see going forward to see how that changes. I hadn't heard anything about that, but that is true that Heigan was moving properly this week, where normally he does he just waits. He would get pulled and he would just chill out for a while and then move.
It's the first time that we had a Heigan kill without any casualties. So that's
Nice.
something.
Yeah. Since we're talking about Heigan now anyway, there was another change where it says they fixed a few areas in Heigan where plague waves could overlap and deal double damage. And Bob has been a victim of this countless times, I think. I mean, we have so many just
twice.
Twitch clips of Bob being like, how am I dead here? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Even if I got hit, I have more than enough health, or I have like a potion popped, a nature protection potion. So how am I dead? It never made any sense. And now, hey, it makes sense and it's fixed.
Yeah, and I think spell batching added into that too, because I've got a clip of where I died in a KT void zone, and I was clearly out of it. You know what I mean? Like I was definitely like last second, but like I got out, stood there for a second, and then died.
Or you're one of those. I see.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, it did feel really good, especially for trash. If a warrior goes to use execute, if the mob's dead, you didn't execute. If you like. And before, everybody just put it in, and then there'd be multiple executes and a ton of rage wasted. And I wonder if that could happen with healers and caster DPS too, because they're just not wasting extra mana at the end of a fight. But it was crazy.
I mean the big thing for healers too is just that like there were so many times and logs where you could just see a heal going out, but you got killed anyway. Like they just batched together, and it's like I got overkilled and healed at the same time. This is pretty silly. So I think it's just better overall.
Yeah, that was all of the deaths were always just the batching.
Yeah, no one ever would have died.
It was never the healer fault. I mean,
we would have had a no death classic WoW if it wasn't for spell batching.
No, but it did feel a lot more smooth. It was like not only the heals landing, but also like the health bars moving. I don't know if you noticed. Maybe it was just like you said, placebo effect. But apparently, for me at least, the health bars from the raid, they moved faster. It was just a way smoother experience, more reactive. I liked it.
Yeah, same with rage generation too. Also, you would see two, if you did, two moves quickly in quick succession, you'd see it go dunk dunk rather than before where it just all shoot in all at once. Oftentimes, I think you were probably wasting rage because you didn't dump, because you didn't realize that you were going to go to cap so quickly.
Yeah. When I healed, it showed, and that was nice.
Yeah, so obviously great. I mean, it's awesome. A lot of these changes, though, they make me slightly bitter because I just wish they were in longer. But it's okay. We get a small period of time to enjoy them in vanilla, but the difference is real. I mean, even just collecting mail and trading is just such a nicer experience now. The game is just it's like freeing. I can actually trade somebody without this weird lag.
Yeah, it is super cool. It's still a little weird trading gold. That still lags a little bit, but I don't know what that is. I'll have to get back to you with more testing, but it still does a little bit of a weird delay. I don't know if that's intended or not, but one of the things people were a little Paladins specifically were a little scared about was would they still be able to seal twist. And what a seal twist is they'll put up a seal, then here actually Dunedain, you're a Paladin. Why don't you explain this part?
Yeah, so I'm a holy paladin, but I know what seal twisting is because I plan on playing Red Paladin in TBC. So basically, seal twisting, you right before you're going to hit with your weapon, so you need to have a weapon swing timer. If you then change seals, the previous seal should still be in the previous batch, while the new seal is basically in the same batch. Did I say that's right? So basically, you can put two seals in the same batch, right? If you switch the seal right before you swing, and if you do that correctly, you can have the effect of two seals. So that's seal twisting. And now what they did is they made it so that some seals, not all of them, have a slight delay if you change them. So they still stay on the target for like, what is it, like 0.4 seconds or something like that. So they made the seal twisting into a game mechanic, like an actual game mechanic.
Yeah.
I'm personally against it, but I'm probably minority here.
Okay, then tell us why, because I haven't heard anybody to be actually against it.
Multiple reasons. One, it's not fun. I don't like the gameplay. I'm talking mainly TBC here because maybe in vanilla it might be fun because you don't really have too much to do, right? You're basically auto attacking and then seal twisting, judging probably. But in TBC you have Crusader Strike, you have Exorcism on some targets at least. Might Consecrate. I don't think that's possible with the mana I have, but it was never intended. That's the first thing. I talked with damn it, I forgot his name. Like the class developer,
Kevin Jordan,
obviously, and a guildmate of me talked with him as well. But I after that, I had a chat with him, and I asked him, "What would you have done with seal twisting if it was something people used back in the day on a higher or a bigger scale?" Instead, I would have removed it because it's not part of how the class was designed, and it's basically because of limitations in the system, right? Mm-hmm. So if we can fix the limitation in the system, then it would never have been part of the class design. That's what he said. So he would have removed it, and he didn't like it being in TBC. And I share the opinion. I think it's more fun to do the actual Paladin rotation with the Crusader Strike, with the Judgment, with the Exorcism potentially, and then focusing on different things, popping trinkets, popping wings, using potions, cleansing, whatever else you are supposed to be doing, instead of looking at the weapon swing timer and seal switching every time you swing. Now in TBC, it's quite strange how they did it. Apparently, it's like it used to be, but you can switch from Seal of Command into Seal of Blood, but you cannot switch from Seal of Blood into Seal of Command.
I did hear that.
Seal of Command doesn't have, Seal of Blood doesn't have the delay on it. People thought it was a bug, but apparently it's not. It's how it was in TBC. So as long as they keep it like that, that's what they call one-way twisting. I'm not too much against it, because it means that you can also not seal twist, stack a lot of haste, and be just fine and do good damage. You will maybe be a little bit behind, but it won't be too much, and it's way easier to pull off. If they implement like the double twisting, I will be disappointed, very disappointed, because it means that I have to use it to be competitive, and it's not something I think I will enjoy. Like constantly switching, looking at the weapon swing timer. Yeah. So basically, I feel like it's an exploit that's made into a gameplay mechanic, which was never intended to be one.
Which is kind of similar to
heroic strike queuing.
Yeah, like, and really, we don't have to do that with the gear and world buffs now, but early on we had to do it constantly, even with world buffs when you were just in pre-bis, and yeah, you're just basically watching swing timer, and now I almost want to turn it off at times, like if I have buffs, because I'll end up just canceling on accident because like my main hand's so slow now, and so I'm just like, oh dang it, I just missed one, and so yeah. I wasn't a big fan of canceling heroic strike either, so I couldn't see that, and that sounds even worse and harder than heroic strike cancels.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's a weird. Go on. Yeah, it makes sense because it's just super weird. It's like if every hunter had to melee weave to be competitive as a hunter, it'd be like, I don't wanna like.
Yeah, and that's a good example. But in the hunter's case, you can make the argument that it's just using the abilities as they were intended.
Yeah, it's not even like from a bug.
Yeah, in the Paladin's case, it's because of limitations. You're literally using its 2 seals when it's clearly intended to only use 1. Now, you say that about the Hunter, and that's exactly the reason I don't want to play a Hunter. And if you really look into it, you cannot play a Warrior because of that. You cannot play a Hunter because of that. You cannot play a Feral Druid because of those exploity things. And you cannot play a Paladin if you don't want to exploit things. So I don't think that's good game design. I think they should change it, but I know that I'm in the minority. Well, I think I am in the minority because many people speak like they want double seal twisting in the game because it ups your damage as a paladin. I'd rather have a fun class and not the highest damage class. If I want to play the highest damage class, I will go and play a warlock or a hunter. I want to play paladin.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you were on because I don't have a dog in this race, and I was under the impression that I just hadn't heard of anyone not liking it. So
yeah, I'm fully swayed on it because that is like you make a class less fun because of a game limitation, and it just even if it is more damage. No, I totally agree on that. That is interesting. But again, yeah, I also don't have a dog in this race, so.
Well, okay, so you talked about Heigan and the double damage overlap, but we didn't really hit on them changing it to where you can no longer do the cheese of having Heigan on the platform and the casters just out of mana burn. And so we'd never tried this, but did you ever try this?
Yeah. So many people in the guild wanted to try it for parsing reasons, and just because it's easier. As you probably know by now, I'm quite against all those things. I rather play the game as it was intended, and again, that's clearly something that wasn't intended. So we did it once, I think maybe twice, but some guildies were really, really against it, and they didn't want to join the fights, even if we were like going to do that exploit.
Yeah, were they worried it might be bannable or something like that?
It wasn't bannable, but yeah, basically, yeah. And personally, I didn't like it, so we never did it again after those 1 or 2 tries. Because Heigan is like one of the most fun fights in Nax, and then you were going to use an exploit to make it like a tank and spank fight. Why? I don't see a reason doing that, so I'm glad they changed it.
With the gear and buffs we have now, we don't even get to do the dance anymore. We haven't done it for a few weeks now.
Yeah, but there's like but that's like us overcoming the fight. Like we've gotten good at it. We've gotten gear, and now we're able to one phase Heigan. Whereas we could have one phased them for a long time if we had done this instead. So yeah, I agree. We never really were that interested in doing it either because it is just like it's just not right. Like whether or not it's bannable, it is still kind of like abuse. That's not the mechanic of the fight. So we were never
skipping
really
the whole mechanic of the fight.
Yeah.
But it's something people tend to do in Classic, right?
Oh yeah,
it's very world buff, so you can skip half of the raid. It's basically the same thing, but well, it's not exactly the same. This is like an actual exploit. So
yeah. I mean, for fun, world buffs definitely take away a lot of the fun. Like, I think Gothic is a really, really fun fight. It's pretty tough, and especially when we were first going into Nax, it was really tough. And without world buffs, it was. But with world buffs, it trivializes everything. You just kill everything, and it doesn't really matter. But when we had to like call out, like, oh, we need to shackle this stuff. Oh, don't send any more trainees over. Like, that was a really fun time because it was chaotic and it was hectic. But then, like if there's ways to cheese it, or in this case, it's just really world buffs making it easier. It's just the fight itself is less fun. Nax has been a lot of fun with how difficult it's been and how many mechanics you have to actually know compared to a lot of the other boss fights in Classic.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely. And then the rest of the notes are just kind of bug fixes, and I don't really care to go over any of them, but are there any that anybody wants to go over?
Yes.
Okay, go
way
right
more
ahead.
important than spell batching. Way more important than the Chronoboon Displacer.
I gotta hear this.
City guards now once again correctly respond to /salute and /wave, so you can wave at all the city guards again. Okay. I can't believe how long it took them. Also, the Cryptstalker headpiece was missing part of the red eye glow effect. Cryptstalker is one of my favorite T3 sets, so good. It's just like how the shoulders were miscolored for the T2.5 for warriors. They got to get this cosmetic stuff right.
Nice. Anything else though? You good?
That's all I got.
All right, so moving on so WoW Classic character transfers from server to server will temporarily be closed on April 30th. Now, this is what makes me think that we're not far off from pre-patch, because they're basically getting ready for pre-patch and the snapshot of your characters. So I'd probably have everything you want on the characters by April 30th if you were being smart.
Yeah, I think I just don't know what the different, like, why can't you transfer?
Because they're going to be they're going to be snapshotting the characters. I don't know if it's going to take a good amount of time or what, but they'll have to back up the databases and everything. And so I don't know their database setup, but I know sometimes it can be very time consuming, and if people are jumping from server to server, it could really screw up the database.
Maybe they also want to look at faction balance in some of those servers that are so off balance. Maybe they want like a clear snapshot of what that looks like to potentially combine servers.
That would be good, but I think that might be wishful thinking.
I know.
Yeah. I think it's more of keeping the integrity of the database. Because like you say, if you switch a character from one to another server, it might come in another database and then things messes up. But what I was finding worrying in the post is that it says it will be closed for multiple weeks. Now it's still possible that pre-patch comes out like on the 18th of May, which is highly rumored, right?
Yep.
But then multiple weeks sounds like a little longer. I don't know. Maybe they will not open transfer until after the pre-patch or while in the pre-patch. I don't know how to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, May 18th would be like a week and a half, a little over a week and a half.
Well, it's
or two
weeks
weeks and a half. Yeah,
2.5 weeks. Yeah, so that could be multiple. It also says the actual snapshotting of all classic WoW characters will occur after this closure. So it's like it could be in that 2.5 weeks. It could be an extra week. The problem is like, what is multiple weeks? What do they think multiple weeks are?
Is it Blizzard soon? Like Blizzard multiple weeks? Does that mean like 12 weeks? You know,
like maybe end of December or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm gonna hope for the best. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any other reason other than just like for database reasons. That's what they say. So, and when they say that the snapshot will occur after this closure, does that mean after it reopens, or does after closure mean while closed? Like,
what is while closed?
Okay, yeah. Like, I'm like, what is after closure? Okay, so if you want to transfer characters over and put all your money onto one character for this, you probably have to do it before that April 30th. Then anything that you want to snapshot properly. That's definitely interesting. But I'm glad they're giving. I mean, this is plenty of heads up, I think, for most people. I appreciate them telling us.
Are any of you actually planning on keeping a character in the classic era realm?
I mean, it kind of depends on how much it costs. If it's cheap enough, I'll keep my main just as a, not really to play though, unless they do something cool. Like I'll have him there if they do something cool, but it'd just be like a year or two down the road to look at, oh, there's my T3 that I disenchanted. There it is. You know, something like that.
Yeah, for me, I feel like if it was a one-time option thing, I might be more inclined to like clone a character to the classic era servers. But since I know, or they've said, we'll be able to do it later, I feel like there's no motivation for me to do it initially.
Yeah, and then price points matters a lot too. But they've also hinted, like in these surveys, that there might be some more changes coming to classic era servers, like some variety of classic plus, which I think, like with a Chronoboon Displacer and stuff, they already are kind of implementing a somewhat classic plus, or changing some metas around and changing how things work. So if there's more interesting stuff on classic era, maybe I would copy a character over. But I don't know. Once classic TBC is out, I'm not going to be coming back to my 60 warrior for any good reason. I mean, I think me personally, TBC just feels like a more complete game. That I'm going to be way more focused on that than vanilla.
Yeah. What about you? Are you planning on keeping a classic era?
No. Well, no. There's nothing to do there. So
yeah.
I've done all the raids multiple times. I got basically everything I want, and I'm not planning on doing Nax again when TBC is out. But the only reason I see myself doing it is if they indeed bring out some new content, but not something minor like the Displacer. I'm talking more like a new battleground or a new raid, even potentially dungeons. I don't know if they even plan doing that. Yeah, that's in TBC as well. You see,
true, and it's better, arguably.
Yeah, most likely indeed. But even then, it depends what they bring. I guess they will bring something that's interesting just to incentivize people buying it eventually. We'll see.
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple people that do plan on staying, and I'm very interested at why, but they haven't really given me a reason. Salve Daly might be coming on the show in a couple weeks or a few weeks to talk about why he plans to stay and play both, and so that should be pretty interesting. But I'm like you, I just don't see a real reason to. Would you play fresh though if they brought out fresh like 6 months to a year after TBC?
Yeah, well, I guess not. Even though I'm interested in it. I like the idea of like a cycle in probably all the expansions, but I'm not entirely sure how they should do it. Previously I was thinking they would come out with fresh realms at the very same day as TBC would launch, so you could choose, and there would no community would suddenly have a decrease in players if they do that at the very same day. But they're not doing that. Doing it like half a year after TBC, I'm not so sure. That would literally lower, like maybe not half, but like a quarter of the population at actual TBC realms. I would say. I'm not sure if that's healthy. Guess it depends on how many layers we will end up having. I would personally not play it until I played the whole cycle of, I think, classic TBC and Wrath of the Lich King, and then after it, I would probably go back to classic. Because I think after it's hard to say now because we just played classic for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to say I'm going back to classic immediately. But I think I like classic most out of the three. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, Ryan's had different ideas about seasons, like year-long seasons. We've had different guests give us different ideas, like bosses drop double loot so that you can go through the phases quicker. we've had people have ideas about different things that you could do, and there's also just you could go quicker and with the same loot, and then the content would just be a lot harder, because you wouldn't have BIS going into BWL, going into AQ, going into, and to be quite honest, that was how vanilla was, because there was so much turnover that you were always doing while we were doing AQ progression, we would do MC and BWL first, and then we would do AQ progression for as much time as we had left. Whereas now everybody does, most people that I've talked to and seen do the harder ones first, and then they will clean up the others as they can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I think it would be interesting seeing people going to AQ with a few items from BWL, a few more from MC, instead of being full pre-biz. It would still not be very hard.
But especially with world buffs too.
Yeah. That's another thing. If it releases exactly as it was, world buffs, we already have the Displacer, obviously, so it won't release like that. But if it was an exact copy of how we started Classic, I would not play it again over TBC. I would play it in a few years, most likely, because I don't see myself quitting WoW, the Classic era. I like it too much.
Yeah,
for sure. I think just after 2 years of Classic, my thought process behind going back and doing it all again is very much nope, I'm done right now. Let's move forward. And then, maybe in a few years we'll get nostalgia again and
forget
about
grocery shopping when you're full, you can't we're full of Classic WoW. It's hey, you want some more? It's more vanilla.
You want to start over?
We just did so much of it.
I mean, maybe if you give me some sprinkles and some chocolate sauce, but okay. Yeah. So the next thing that I thought was super crazy is that Blizzard confirms Dispels either offensively or defensively can be resisted in Classic WoW. This was a bug that went over. It was an oversight for the entirety of Classic WoW, but you should have been able to resist Dispels, and Dispels could have been resisted from mobs too. You try to dispel during Saffron, that could have been that could now be resisted, which is kind of interesting.
I don't understand why they would tell us this. This is just the most BM thing I've ever seen in my life. Hey, all those times that those low-level shamans and low-level priests dispelled you in Stormwind, you could have resisted, but we just had a bug in the game this whole time. How funny is that?
And now that we're almost finished.
Yeah.
We'll
That's
take it and make it right.
That's a quick blue post to let you know.
It reminds me of the Overwatch Brigitte bug, where you would basically couldn't kill someone during her ultimate, and it affected an entire stage or two of the Overwatch League, and they came out and they're yeah, so this was real broken for a long time.
No.
Oh, what do you think, Dunedain?
It wasn't entirely clear to me that it worked in PvE as well. So is it confirmed that Saffron Dispels are resistible? I mean,
according to the post,
okay.
So it says additionally, dispelling of harmful effects in certain PvE encounters will have a small chance to fail.
Yeah. So Saffron not confirmed, but some PvE.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not so sure I like that very much. In PvP, all right, it's just spell resist, I suppose. But in PvE, it adds a random effect that is not entirely necessary.
Yeah, and how do you prevent it? Does more frost really, res prevent them getting, not getting the dispel off? That's where I was unclear about.
I don't understand. I wonder if this is just worded wrong and they actually mean dispelling. So the champions in the Cthulhu trash can be dispelled because they have an enrage that's dispellable. It doesn't make sense
that shot or something that.
It doesn't make sense that like dispelling a harmful effect on a friendly player could have a chance to fail. It's like,
Right.
what if a heal could have a chance to fail? It's like you're applying a friendly effect. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Like, well, you died because you resisted my heal that was going up on you.
I used Blessing of Protection, but it resisted. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I don't think it's intended, or I don't think it will work like that. So we'll need to wait and see, I suppose. Because if that's the case, I don't like it very much. If it's not, I don't care, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll just have to wait and see. But I would be more along the lines with Yip that it would be something like Trank Shot or something like that could, be resisted if it was anything.
Yeah, it's not super clear. However, I am seeing somebody in the comments of the Wowhead thread is mentioning Maxna and Heigan has that like reduced health that it does, like 50% reduced health, or is it 50% reduced healing? He does some like disease on you, and they're saying that it might not have gotten dispelled properly when they tried. I don't know if that's that's not confirmation, but that's a bummer if that's the case.
That's increased nature damage, I think.
Okay, increased nature damage taken. Yeah. So I mean, I don't think that's good game design. Doesn't really make any sense. I think we all agree.
Well, on a lighter note, for a short time on Thursday, players had the Spirit of Zandalar ZG buff in their spellbook, like right next to their racials. One of our listeners sent us in a clip of him just popping it while they were running AQ40, and Meldoron told me that they were popping it all through their raid just as a joke, and it's just I guess like the major cities were super laggy because people are just popping it. So this was a little crazy.
My favorite was the devs post on Twitter, like, oops. Like, sorry.
Yeah. I don't know where did they explain how this happened. My guess would be that in fixing the Chrono Displacer, having like the ZG buff allowed twice, they must have done something in happened there.
Yep.
But somehow added it. Like, I don't even know how the code works, but how that's even a possibility of like an error that would go through. Like, were they messing around with this? Were they thinking maybe
I don't know.
This instead of the Chrono Booster?
We have set up. We had someone set up a private server, and you could like do this sort of thing in that. Like, did a GM just type like "give spell Zandalar" and it's just like, hey, everyone can have it now.
Oh, did you see this or hear about this at all, Dunedain?
I totally missed it. So the first time I saw it was when I looked at the preparation of this podcast. So, no, I totally missed it. I saw the clip, but in the clip, I don't know if you're going to show it. It seems like you can click on it, but it doesn't actually buff. Is that correct, or did I just see this wrong?
Buffing. It was buffing in Stormwind at least.
Yeah, I wonder if he had it stored in his Chrono.
Yeah, you're right. It's not in the clip. It's not actually applying.
Yeah.
So what happened probably? Okay, because in that clip they said that it was hot fixed, so most likely he just had restarted his client. So on server side it didn't work, but on client side he could still click it because it sounded like other guildies did not have the option at that point.
Makes sense. But yeah, you definitely could, like when it was happening in Stormwind, you were getting the buff. It was pretty silly.
Oh man.
That's
but
nuts.
Yeah, it was just kind of a funny little story that I thought I would share. But let's move into discussion. And this week we have a new guest, Dunedain, which I can't seem to say this entire episode. This is his first time on the podcast, and as everybody who listens knows, we like to get to know our guests. So we'll just start in with, when did you start playing WoW?
At the very beginning, must have been like 2005. It came out in Europe, and I played, what was it, patch 1.3, 1.4? I think that's around when I started. I know that there was no honor system in the game when I started. And
that was super early.
Yeah. Slightly after it, I started playing. So quite early on, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Life didn't hit 60 like right before they came out with the honor system, and so, but there wasn't a lot of people that were 60 at that time, so it was pretty early on in the life cycle, maybe 3 to 4 months would be my guess.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, it came out 2004 in NA. Then you had the first patch with Maraudon, and then it came out in Europe. And slightly after it came out in Europe, I bought it. So I can't remember exactly when, but
crazy. I didn't even know that it came out later in Europe. I think definitely. I knew it came out later in China, but I didn't know Europe.
Yeah, China even a lot later, but Europe a few months later as well.
Huh. Okay. Wow. Cool. You learn something new every podcast. At least I do. So, how long did you play for?
Like the entirety.
So you've played every retail expansion.
Oh, okay. Every retail expansion except for Shadowlands. Yes.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Shadowlands is the first one I didn't buy, and I didn't play like every single day, every single week. Of all the expansions. Sometimes I took quite a long break, as in a few months to a year or something. But I always came back. So new expansion, I came back, played for a while, and then I quit again or played private servers, if I'm allowed to say that, until Classic came out. Yeah, I think I'm thinking Mists of Pandaria, I played through the entirety of its existence. I think maybe I quit through the maybe near the end. I think I quit Mists, and then I came back for Warlords, and from Warlords on I only played like 3 to 4 months each expansion, then quit, came back, quit, came back. But everything before basically played throughout the entirety of the expansion.
That's the same.
Warlords was Yip's favorite expansion.
No, well, I was, I've just mentioned that Warlords for me is when I was like, okay, this is. I've played every expansion since then, but it's either I didn't like Warlords at all, but either Warlords broke me and I do what you do now and I just like quit after the first couple months every time, or it was that extended Siege of Orgrimmar at the end of Mists of Pandaria where it was like a year and a few months of just Siege of Orgrimmar. It was such a long time that we were raiding that, and I think by the end I was like, okay, and I just never could get serious into raiding again after.
Oh man,
yeah. I must say, Mists, I didn't raid a whole lot in Mists. Neither did I raid in Wrath and Cataclysm. I mainly did PvP in those three, and everything else I did raid, but those three I didn't raid. So I'm kind of looking forward to Wrath of the Lich King for the raiding, because most of those raids I never even stepped foot in. Well, except Nax, obviously, now in vanilla.
Right.
The other ones, I can't really remember anything about them.
I enjoyed raiding in Wrath, but I didn't really enjoy the tournament, the Crusader tournament. I forget what it was called, but I didn't really enjoy that. But the rest of it I really enjoyed. But you're actually kind of like Mel and I think maybe Yip too, where we didn't really raid in TBC much. So we're excited for all the TBC stuff because it's like new content.
Yeah, like I stepped foot in Karazhan like when Sunwell's already out. That's like my TBC experience. So I'm looking forward to TBC for that reason.
Yeah, I did fly.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, no, I was just going to say I did fly through the raids during Wrath. We just did it for achievements one night, but I don't remember. It was like super late at night. We got our no death mount from Ice Crown and all that in like one night. But sorry, you were going to say?
Yeah. Now you say it's from the tournament raid in Wrath. I forgot about it. I did that. There was no raid finder, right? It was but I did
No,
that.
I think it came with pre-patch, right? It came sometime it might have come at start of Cataclysm. No, it came sometime a little bit after Cataclysm. Yeah,
yeah. Looking for raid was Cataclysm for sure.
But you had heroic raids. You had normal and heroic.
Yeah, you had. I think you had like normal Child of Grand Crusader and stuff like that. I think.
Yeah, I suppose I did those things in like puck raids.
Yeah.
I never did heroic raiding in Reds, and I mean, it's just that you say the tournament thing. I remember like multiple times, but maybe there was a dungeon like that.
There was also a dungeon. There was a dungeon and a raid.
Probably was that. Yeah,
and you had to get on the horses.
It's
like
a long
joust and stuff. Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
I wanted to say something else. Oh yeah, in TBC I did every single raid except for Sunwell. So yeah, we'll see. Excited. It's the same thing as in Classic. I did everything before in actual Classic except for Nax. So now we will see how it is.
It'll be interesting to see with Wrath. You know how they brought Nax back, but now most people in the Classic realm have done Nax. So
that is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be and you're going to be getting the same gear, basically, like look and fit. Like you'll be getting Kiss of the Spider again. I'll be like, but I already have Kiss of the Spider.
Like too soon.
Well, it's 2 years from now, at least, I'm sure. So I think we'll be okay. It'll be
maybe.
Well, and there's a bunch of differences in it too. I mean, it'd be the first raid tier. I mean, we'll probably enjoy it. Plus, if you're a way warrior, that gear looks pretty dang cool. So, but okay. So you talked about private servers a bit, but did you play a lot of private servers? Because we like completely missed that train, didn't even realize it was a thing, but it's been neat to hear about them.
So the first private server I played on was Nostalria's, and I was on Nostalria's launch day, which was very, very fun. I played that for a good couple of months, from launch day on until like level 40, whatever. I leveled very slow, must say. And then it watered down a little bit. I was playing with a friend, and my friend didn't want to level anymore, and we dual leveled up to that point. So that's when I started the new character on Nostalria's, and then I never really got to level 60 on that server until the whole revolution thing kicked off, and it was taken down, and then it was brought back up again by Light's Hope, if I'm correct. And that's when I think it was called, or Elysium.
I think Elysium.
Yeah. And then I started playing seriously on that server. So I got my 2 characters from Nostalria's back. I started a new one, leveled it to 60, rated even a little bit. At some point I thought, well, Classic is going to come out. I don't want to spoil everything. So I quit at that point. And then I didn't touch it for like a year or something like that. And then Classic came out, and in the meantime, I tried a TBC server, but it was fun, but population dropped insanely quickly. So after a few weeks, I quit that, and that's about it. So yeah, Nostalria's great experience at the start, really, just insane.
Were you there the day that it shut down? Because I've seen clips of that where the GMs were turning people into Ragnaros and Stormwind. It looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was. So I played on the start. I quit for a while, and then I knew they were going to shut it down. And then I came back. I wanted to see that, and logged in on I think it was a level 46 undead priest or something. So I couldn't really participate in all those things, but it was just fun to be around. And I stayed online until they took the server down. And then it was like, it felt strange. You were sitting there with probably not millions, but it looked like millions of people. And then suddenly it was over.
Yeah, that's sad. Always a weird thing. I went to the last few hours of Star Wars Galaxies, and Star Wars Galaxies held a special place in my heart because probably a lot of people don't know about it, but I was one of the first Jedi, and so it was one of the coolest things ever to be one of the first Jedi of that game. And I mean by first, I mean like first 200, and it was a pretty popular MMO at the time. But then I just didn't really play after they made a bunch of changes. But I reactivated my account just to log in for that last few hours, and it was craziness.
There was this whole "you think you do, but you don't" movement thing going on the forums at that point, and it's also when I unsubscribed from WoW the day that they took my salaries down. I unsubscribed, and when they asked for a reason, I just typed "you think you do, but you don't." So I was like,
"That's awesome."
Well, I can maybe participate a little bit in this.
It's so memey now, but that was like a real kind of movement. People were like, everyone was really against that. That was crazy, and like they had that huge petition. It was a crazy time.
But it felt good just to be able to do that little thing, you know?
Yeah, you're a part of it. You're like, goodbye.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, so I think you already answered this, and that your favorite expansion is vanilla, but can you tell us why?
Yeah, so it's a hard question. Because we didn't really play TBC yet, and it's so long ago that I played it. I did play vanilla back in the day. I did play it on private servers. I played it now again. I still like it, but maybe I like TBC more. We will see. But the reason I think I like it more is because it's the most pure MMO. Like, you have the adventure, your character is growing, the early starting zones, the exploration, everything is new. It's the most nostalgic as well, I suppose. It's like Blizzard was trying and experimenting with stuff, and you can kind of feel that when playing the game. Quests that bring you to the weirdest locations, like the druid quest to get your aquatic form, those kind of things. People hate it, but I think at the same time you kind of have to love it as well, because it brings something unique. That's why I like Classic most. I think it's so unique, and they were not afraid to try like inconvenient stuff, which is
that's for sure.
Yeah,
oh, yeah, that's for sure.
It makes it feel real. Like even just like the Uber's key, it's just like, oh, here are pieces of the key, and you have to roll against the whole party for them when they drop, and you got to put it together to get into Uber. It's just like these little things like that make it feel like a cohesive world, and not just like, we've made a dungeon, go do the dungeon. It's like there's a lead up into these things, getting Onyxia tuned now. It's kind of an inconvenience because I think you have a lot of characters and don't feel like doing it, but like phase 1, when we're all getting Onyxia tuned, it's like, this is such a process just to go kill a dragon, and it's like an in-depth story. So I really love
it's definitely the most explorative of all expansions, and I think maybe TBC has probably better class design and maybe more content, even though I'm not entirely sure. We will have to wait and see. I don't necessarily like the hero dungeon versions. I just rather have one. But I think when actually playing it, I might like it because it's a new challenge, a new gear. Well, if you overgear the normal dungeons, you have the same ones to do again on the harder mode. So it keeps it relevant, I suppose. But I kind of like the purity of just one difficulty, which vanilla has. I do like Arena a lot, but at the same time, it also puts people into queues and into like zones that are not open world. So I see a lot of good stuff in TBC, but at the same time, it's a little bit less of an MMO than vanilla actually was.
Yeah. Vanilla's more of a sandbox, and you can go to all these weird different places just because the land masses are so vast. You're like, what is this guy doing here? It's probably a bot, but either way, like, it's just weird that it's a completely different thing. Like, whereas Outland, everybody's there. I do think there are more quests in Outland than in all of Azeroth, but I could be wrong there. But it's unbelievable.
You're probably right. Yeah, The one thing that's a shame and that we can never really relive is the actual exploration, because when you played vanilla back in the day, you had internet, but it wasn't the same as it was now. So you had to look or search for things yourself in the game. And I always wondered how people were able to find spots like the hinterlands, because it was like a narrow entrance.
Yep. Yeah. And
so the first,
I didn't know when I was going to run into Horde. And I remember the first time running into a Horde, just having to like, oh my God, it's a Horde. Well, what do I do? Well, attack him, and then like, I think I've told this story before. We both fell off the cliff while fighting each other and both died, but it was in wetlands. And it was just like, oh, Horde first. It was crazy.
Also, doing the first day of the TBC beta without Questy, I was like, oh my God, this is what it was like before, wasn't it? Where you didn't have some question mark and something telling you where all of your quests were. I was like, how am I supposed to find this dog that I'm supposed to kill? Like,
and Dunedain is not a fan of a Questy. We are fans of Questy. I used Thoughtbot back in the day, but I do understand your argument if you want to tell the others.
Yeah, so I only installed Questy in Classic in Phase 5, I think. So everything before I did without Questy. It's not because I enjoy leveling that much. I do enjoy it every now and then, but I don't have like 6 level 60s or something. That's not the case at all. But I just find it, that's how I used to play it, and that's how I always played it. And I don't like just following arrows. I have the feeling, especially when playing retail, that I went through the entire zone and I didn't know where I actually was. So I can do like a whole day of questing, go through several zones, and if I come there again, I hardly even recognize the spot, and I can't tell where I just was. But just because you're following like arrows and bubbles, and here you need to kill stuff, and it leads you.
Yeah, and you say that, and now that you mention it, like that's all of Wrath of the Lich King questing for me. Like I don't remember hardly anything what it looked like, because that's when I really started. I don't forget what the name of it was. God, it started with a V, but it was a program that just showed you everything on the map like Questy. I think it was the first of its kind, and before that, I just used Thoughtbot for all of vanilla and TBC, and you just kind of look up all your quests and then kind of just be like, okay, they're in this area, type of deal, and just kind of prepare yourself before going out. But yeah, now that you mention it, I don't remember most of Wrath's like stuff.
So, and that's a big difference with between Classic and TBC as well. You guys did the beta without Questy, and it felt different than doing it with Questy, but it wasn't that hard because the quests are in quest hubs in TBC.
Yeah, it's a lot
You do all the quests in a quest hub, you move to the next quest hub, you do all the quests, and so on and so on. So it's way more linear, and so it's possible to do it without Questy, basically. And Questy makes it even easier, so it just basically starts running after arrows. While in Classic, even with Questy, it still feels different, and you still feel like you need to know a little bit more where you're going, because you have little or less quests in certain areas. You need to go from one to another, come back later, and all that stuff. And while people think that's probably not as convenient and maybe less fun, I think that's better game design. So
yeah, that's so crazy now that you mention that, because I played Wrath much later than both TBC and vanilla, and I would say Azeroth vanilla is what I remember the most. So, and that's probably the reason, because I started being more and more reliant on add-ons and not really looking at my surroundings. That's crazy. It's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I know the answer to this question, but I'm asking it anyway. Horde or Alliance?
Yeah, so definitely Alliance.
Yes.
But that being said, I played half of my WoW career on Horde, which is because of friends, Yeah. So I started an Alliance, then my friends wanted to go on Horde side, and then we basically just stayed on Horde side until my friends quit, and then I came back to Alliance, back to my family, I suppose.
Good Alliance at heart. That's how it
Bob
always
and I
goes.
played Horde too.
But like no one switching to Horde, no one ever has like a good story. It's always like, oh, it's better for PvE, it's better for PvP, or my friends switched to Horde. But Alliance is like, we're back to Alliance. We get to finally be Alliance. No one's switching to Horde because they like it better. Okay.
Yeah, you could feel Melderon's heartbreak when Ale kind of like changed his tune and realized that he liked Alliance more. You could see it hurt Melderon's heart.
Blizzard liked Alliance more. All right, that's not my fault.
Well, their cities are just nicer to be.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, so Stormwind, you cannot miss out on Stormwind and the Night Elf starting zone and all that stuff.
And Ironforge.
Ironforge is amazing if you come there the first time. The view, it's
right.
Alliance cities, Alliance architecture. It's way better.
You're an original vanilla player. You remember the days when Ironforge was the hub in Classic early on, but it was the hub in vanilla for the entire time. And so it's been weird to hang out in Stormwind, but I always liked Stormwind more. So it's been cool, but weird.
Yeah, it's a bit double, I guess. For nostalgic reasons, I rather have Ironforge as my main hub, but Stormwind is more beautiful, so it's fine.
Yeah, we've had multiple, not arguments, but we could never really like track down.
Is this the auction house
houses, Like I
you just don't want to admit the auction houses were linked. You just don't want to believe it. Everyone else has proven that the auction houses were linked, and you're just like,
there's been no proof one way or the other. And I even went to Kevin Jordan, and he didn't remember.
Sorry,
except that we all know, but you.
Yeah. I'm like 100% sure, and I would even say there were no auction houses, but that might be wrong. But I don't think there was an auction house in Stormwind.
Yeah. So at first, I think
was an auction house, but I guess it wasn't linked to the Ironforge one. But I don't remember ever being able to use it until later in the game.
No, I think way early on there were none, and then they were unlinked. Sure. Yeah, I think it started none, then they were unlinked. But by AQ, they were linked. I by AQ, they were.
Oh yeah. For sure. I was just saying I don't think that you could use the Stormwind or the Darnassus one early on. But I could be wrong about that. I just might not have known about it. But I couldn't find any definite proof. And I looked through a lot of patch notes.
My memory says that there were at least no NPCs called auctioneers, because the first time I know there was time they said, well, we will put auction houses in Stormwind now. And then I went with my friend and looked for it, and then we finally found it. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't there before, but I have a vague memory of it being something else, and we were like, oh, they changed it, and now it's auctioneers.
Yeah,
and then it was not linked.
I'm not positive either, but I just don't remember ever being an auction house until halfway through the game. And, then, I remember Ironforge having the auction house, but I don't remember Stormwind or Darnassus till like halfway-ish through Vanilla Cycle. But they could have been there, and I just never knew that they were there, So I don't know. But I've asked 2 devs, and they don't remember either. And so I'm just like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to forget about it. All right. So how did you come to be on Good Morning Azeroth? Because I unfortunately didn't get to start it from the start, because I didn't realize I'd be so into Classic. So as soon as, a couple weeks after Classic was out, I was like searching for every podcast I could find. And you guys were one of the first that I found. And I've listened or watched every episode since. And so how did you come to be on that show?
It was actually my idea.
Really?
Yeah. So
there you go.
Yeah. So I was playing with DevCamp and Meltron a little bit on the private servers. I talked with them not regularly, but sometimes. And I had been on the Dev Talk show. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
So at that time, I was also starting to make some of my own videos on my YouTube channel, which Cargos saw, and then he posted the comments on one of those. So I reached out to him because he was like, maybe we can operate something or collaborate. Yeah. So I reached out to Def Camp, Meltron, Cargos, and I told them, what about we do something like a podcast or something? And then we started talking on Discord, and we came up with the Good Morning Ezra thing. So yeah, that's why.
Wow. I had no clue. You know, everybody always just kind of thinks that it was Cargos, or at least I shouldn't say everybody. I just assumed that it was Cargos.
Bob thought that.
We used his channel because he had the most viewers, and he still has. So we used this channel to promote it. Most people don't know it. It doesn't matter because I'm already very happy that I was able to be part of it. So I'm very grateful, and I don't need any of the what's it called? I mean, I'm happy I'm there. Any of the credit indeed.
Yeah, I'm sure Cargos doesn't try to take credit for it. I'm sure if asked, he would, say. But that's a really cool little tidbit of info. So you just had the idea to do a podcast type talk show thing.
Yeah, so I always like those things, and I listen to them in the car or whenever I have time. And the first thing I listened to was what's it called? Like with Mr. GM and Hamster Wheel. I don't know if you ever watch it. The private chat, the private talk, the private cast, something like that.
No, I didn't.
It's one of the very first.
I saw it since talking to Defcam and Melderon, because I think they said that they were inspired by, or Melderon said Hamster Wheel is what made him get into it.
Yeah, you had Hamster Wheel, Orbit, Mr. GM, Mr. something Kebab, those four. But then it stopped, and then Classic came, and then you had the Classic cast, and I thought, well, we can do that. Maybe maybe better, who knows. I feel like Good Morning Azeroth is, if I can say that shamelessly, more interesting than the Classic cast, but each his own opinion,
Hopefully I don't make any enemies, but I agree with you 100%. And what's crazy is those casts, I found out that they were all there, prior to Classic coming out, but then so many people just stopped when Classic came out, and you guys kept it going, and Quizzy kept hers going, and I really enjoyed, listening to those, and seeing those, when they would come out every week or every other week, or sometimes turned into every month. But either way, it was something, current that I could watch, and really enjoy. And you guys just have so many different opinions and insights. You don't get upset at each other's opinions. I mean, it's just a great show, and it seems really genuine. So I've loved it forever.
Yeah, I'm super happy we started it, and I think we will keep going as long as everyone is playing. Maybe sometimes there's some time between it, but we always get back together and do a couple more episodes. So yeah, awesome. I hope to meet them in real life at some point. But COVID is one thing stopping it, and obviously the distance is another thing. Something like a BlizzCon would be very interesting to meet up. But
yeah, which is still super pricey for someone overseas.
Yeah. Whew. And usually it's not during holiday season or holiday period. So I cannot just take holiday and go to a gaming convention. So we will see. But I'm sure we will meet up in the future.
Awesome. Well, I hope to meet you too. We go to every BlizzCon, but we unfortunately didn't get to go to this this one. But where are you from?
Nobody did.
Curious. What country?
Belgium.
Belgium. Oh, you got good beer.
Apparently, yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I've heard a lot about that. I've never been, but I've heard a lot about the beer.
So you all know Belgium, right? Because
I do.
It's kind of small. Okay.
Oh yeah,
I have a good friend.
I'm personally more into the waffles.
The waffles
and waffles than the beer.
You know that fries are Belgian, right?
I think I've heard that before.
Okay, they say fries like they call it French fries. So it seems to be from France, but it's not true. It's Belgium. I can tell you that.
Interesting.
Well, America thanks you for your service to our national health.
Is it thin or thick fries? Which one?
Everything is possible. It's usually like more of the thick fries, but not very thick, like medium. It's not like in America with the very small ones in McDonald's and stuff. If you compare it to that, it's like twice or three times as thick. But you have the really thick ones as well.
Yeah, here in the States, we've stolen every different type of French fry from every different country. So we have options all over the place here.
Yeah. Well, in Belgium, literally in every little village, you have like four or five places where you can just buy fries,
Wow.
So not McDonald's places, like smaller,
like local places.
Awesome. Well, okay, so what are some of your plans for TBC? This is the last question.
I guess not much changed from Classic. So my goals in Classic were to get all the tier sets, do all the raids, and build up a guild, raid together, and have fun together. And I think the same goals still stand for TBC. I think my guild is still going strong, and I hope to keep that going until as long as people want to play. So yeah, no big goals. I don't really like speed running stuff or anything like that. I just want to enjoy the game as I remember it, and or not even as I remember it. I just want to enjoy the game, and that's it. And I play casually, semi hardcore to casually. I don't want to burn out myself too much. So
sweaty casual, right?
I guess so. Yeah. Sometimes I play a lot, sometimes I don't. But I'm always interested in seeing what's happening, and I'm trying to stay involved in the community. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for some time there was definitely times where we just raid logged, but that has not been the case for a couple months now. I'm playing so much now with beta and everything else. It's been a lot, but I think one of my plans that was not my plan in Classic was to play more alts. Do you have, because it's going to be a lot more alt friendly. Do you have any desire for that, to do a different class?
I'm usually more of a main character player. I have one other level 60. So I have my Paladin as a main, and I have a Hunter at level 60. And I did play it a little bit, but not very much in comparison to the Paladin. I do like leveling some low level alts, but mostly till level 20 or so, and then I get bored of them. But I always enjoy the low level starting zones, so I probably will keep on doing that. For TBC, I think alts are interesting because you have arena, and then you can do different kind of comps with different people. But at the same time, arena is probably more alt friendly, but raiding I'm not so sure about. You need to do quite a lot of preparation.
Something that might get a little bigger in TBC. I know it got really big in Wrath, but twinking, like level 29 characters, level 19 characters were the big ones that I remember back in the day. Was kind of fun if you just like to work up a lower level character. I remember working up a 29 Paladin in Wrath, and I had everything, the best you could possibly have, and I was Ret, and I would literally kill 7-on-1, people at a time, and it was just nuts, unless you run into another twink. But that might be something that starts happening more. It happens now, but from what I hear, not very big.
Yeah, there's a twin community now, but I just think with arena, like everyone is so interested in that, it would be hard to maybe like eventually a twin community will come out. But it's an easy time to PvP with different characters at max level. The arena really brings out another level of competition.
Mm-hmm. I think I can say now I want to play a second character, so I want to play an alt, but I know I will have a hard time leveling it up to 70 and then actually play it. So we will see. My plan is to play my Paladin and one extra character. I think something like Mage, Warlock, maybe. I'm not so sure yet. And then we will see. definitely not my hunter. I don't like that very much.
All right. Well, anything else you want to tell us? Maybe something about yourself that people might not know? I just kind of threw that question at the end. You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
It's quite a broad question.
Yeah, it's like those weird icebreakers, like when you go to college. It's like, hey, meet your roommates. What's one fun fact about you?
It's you do over something we used to ask the Overwatch League players when we would interview them. You get some funny answers, but if you don't want to, you don't have to.
Really. I'm not. I don't know. Really, no. Maybe I think of something.
The French fry. I mean, yeah, the French fries. Yeah, he already given out all the fun facts.
True.
Do you like mayonnaise, actually?
You put mayonnaise on French fries? Is that what this question is?
What?
Really? I'll do a little mayonnaise mixed with some ketchup. I'll do that.
Some people do that. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
That's a very European thing, I suppose. Very Belgian thing. But that's how it's supposed to be, I do like ketchup.
I disagree.
By the way.
Yeah.
But mayonnaise is, you should try it. But you need to have the Belgian version. It's probably better.
Yeah. Oh,
if you ever come
I like ranch. And isn't there mayonnaise in ranch?
Ranch?
I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
I don't know what ranch is made of.
Crazy.
For me, there are certain foods that I find really gross, even if they taste good. Like mayonnaise is one of them, where I love mayonnaise on a sandwich. But I don't want to see myself eating mayonnaise. I know that sounds really weird, but like seeing mayonnaise like on a fry and then I'm eating is much different than like having mayonnaise on a sandwich to me for some reason. I think that's just like based on what you eat growing up, maybe. But
it's super strange because before Defcam told me that he finds it gross, I thought it was something everyone did.
Well, it might be interesting though, because Ryan actually lives in the same small town that Defcamp and Meldron live in. It's a weird fun fact too.
We live.
Okay, wait. Do you guys not have ranch? You guys don't have ranch there?
Oh, you mean in Belgium?
What
really?
Is that?
That's not a thing?
I don't know what it is.
Ranch dressing. Yeah, ranch dressing.
I mean, that's a pretty like American
Interesting.
thing, isn't it? It is mayonnaise based though. I know you were talking about people were acting like you're crazy. But yeah, it's
no, I don't know that.
Yeah, that's like a made up American thing. Ranch dressing. It's like someone just like mixed a bunch of stuff into mayo on a ranch once. And they're just like,
Listen, that's awesome.
Glorious.
It's the most popular dressing in the US, right?
What?
Or am I just talking out of my ass here?
It's my most favorite dressing.
I'm actually seeing that as the best-selling salad dressing in the United States since 1992.
I don't know. I want to say you put that on salad or something.
Salad.
No, you dip your fries in it.
That is disgusting to me. Ranch on a salad?
What?
I would like dip a vegetable in it, but not on like a salad.
You are nuts.
You're talking. So hold on. So you wouldn't put mayo on fries? Were you against the mayo on fries?
I'm gonna try it. I've never done it, but I'm gonna try it now.
Ranch is mayo.
Okay, but it's different.
And you're putting it in your salad. That's just like a bunch of. That's just.
It's definitely very different consistency than mayo, though.
It goes on everything. It goes on salad. It goes on pizza. It goes on vegetables. It goes on.
It's really good with
fries.
With some carrots, some broccoli. Like ranch is really good.
Carrots and broccoli. Now we're talking.
Kim says ranch is mayo on World Buffs, right? Like it's just a better mayo. Come on, guys.
No, I would not have ranch on my BLT sandwich, period. That just wouldn't happen. I wouldn't have it on a burger, but I would have mayo. They're definitely
I wouldn't have mayo
different.
on a burger. I'm not a mayo on a burger. Okay.
All right. Well, let's move on. This was a kind of a fun tangent, but
I feel like my mind is blown that there's no ranch in there, though. I just can't accept this.
There probably is, but it has different names, and it's not something that is mainstream. At least.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, to kind of end it out here, we have maybe 10, 15 minutes. If anybody wants to talk about some fun stories from beta or anything they've noticed in beta or been doing.
I can weirdly consistently farm 5 primals per hour at any farm spot I've done.
Really?
All I know is I'm a really, really bad rogue in Arena. I tried it. Yeah, well, not easy.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had a kind of a fun time. That's how we met, was doing Karazhan with Ale and Josh and Willie and a bunch of people. And me and Dunedain were standing there, and a third came in. We didn't know him, but we're just kind of standing there, just chilling, and then he just says, "Okay, I'm going to get this out early. I'm going to fanboy out. I love both your guys' podcasts." And then immediately I am go, "Yeah, I love Good Morning Azeroth." And then he said the same about Warcraft Reloaded. It was pretty funny.
I don't know what was his name again. Can't remember.
I don't remember.
It was a nice raid. I had a lot of fun. Even though I was trying to do red DPS with half my gear being tanking gear.
Well, you know.
It was definitely scuffed. And we had a Paladin tank, and I was trying to do all of my bar stuff and everything, and Josh was trying to figure out everything to heal. It was definitely scuffed, but it was a good old time. Do you think that's a question for you? Do you think that Karazhan should be harder?
I don't know. I think so, yeah. But it's a tough question. Given that our gear was beyond bad, we still cleared the first bosses without any kind of trouble. I think it should be. Trash felt harder sometimes than the bosses, and that's something I think is strange. But it's possible they were undertuned. I read
that's
somewhere.
What I've heard too. And I'm of the belief that I think Karazhan should be easy. I don't know if it should be that easy that it was for us. I mean, we weren't even talking about the mechanics and just going in and just doing it.
Yeah, Josh didn't even have his talent set, so I mean, it says something,
no
right?
way. Josh.
So it should be a little bit harder. It shouldn't be the hardest raid ever. It was never the hardest raid ever. But there were a few tough bosses, and I think it would be more interesting if there's at least some kind of complexity or some kind of gear needed at least. To make it this was too much of a cakewalk, some of the bosses.
I feel like the attunement process will be way harder with the different heroics you have to do leading up to it than the first 3 or 4 bosses. But they'll probably be a little harder when it comes out, because they did say it was it was not the pre-nerf settings on a lot of it. So I wonder if we'll get to test again. I'm not sure.
I think it's like Asmongold said, like Karazhan will help you do heroics faster instead of the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite funny.
Oh man. Well, anybody else have anything else they want to add in?
I don't know if you tried heroics actually. Oh, yeah, you probably did.
I tried one last night with Ale and Meldoron and Corpse. Corpse is our main tank of Vargflock, and he's been on the show a couple times. But we did it. He struggled a little bit with Paladin tanking with the gear that he had, and he just basically struggled if we accidentally pulled another pack. His mana would just basically be dead, and we'd just have to kite. But we did get through Mechadar. We did get through it, but it was definitely kind of a pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we tried Ramparts. So I suppose that should be one of the easier heroics, but we were not able to kill the last boss. He was really hard. And then the 1-2 last boss, there's only 3, right? But he felt really easy, so he was down before I did any mechanics. So I think there are still some bugs in those things. So maybe some bosses are in the non-heroic versions, or I don't know what's wrong exactly. There's still some work to be done.
I will say Melderon has definitely chosen a hard path by deciding to be in enhanced shaman. He died like almost every other pull. It was just like, it was hilarious.
Because I wasn't there to heal.
Oh man, but yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more to be worked out, but I'm excited about running them, and I'm excited to do more. I'm excited. I still haven't gotten to try out PvP, but I think tonight we're going to try out some more heroics and see if we can knock out a couple more. So, all right, guys, we'll go ahead and start ending out the show, but first, the add-on of the week.
Yeah, so this week's add-on, I'm stealing. It's been written here for weeks now, and we've never talked about it. But there is an add-on called Speedy Auto Loot, but there's other varieties of this as well too. Especially now that looting is even quicker, there are ways to kind of skip the actual window from popping up, and Leatrix does it, and so does Speedy Auto Loot, where it'll just kind of skip the loot window, and it makes looting even. I think that this was a much bigger deal pre-spell batching when looting was actually really, really slow. That's like the biggest problem. But it feels wrong to not at least mention them now. That it skips the window for you to make looting a little more seamless. So even without spell batching being, making looting super slow, it'll still skip the window. So you can just go mob to mob to mob, and the loot will end up in your bag. So want to throw that out there. Speedy Auto Loot or Leatrix Plus has an option to select that on as well too. So wanted to throw those out there.
Dunedain, is there any add-ons that you love?
No.
No.
No, well, maybe yes. Atlas Loot. That's a good one. Atlas Loot. But I use Atlas Loot. I use Recount and Deadly Boss Bots, and now Questy. That's all, I think.
And you don't.
I don't use any heal bots or item rack. I used to have that. I don't use it at the moment, but that's all right.
You don't have raid frame add-ons or anything? You use regular raid frames?
Yeah.
I see.
I use regular raid frames in the TBC, and I'm like, oh.
I mean, they're actually not bad because they're the Cataclysm ones. They're not the ones we had in vanilla.
I was disappointed at the start of Classic. I wanted the old ones.
Yeah, what is this UI stuff?
Yeah, what the hell is this?
There's so many more options. Like I tried out a private server because I was just so excited for Classic, so I wanted to try out a couple classes and stuff like that. And then just the menu options compared to that to what we have in Classic, I was like, hey, all this stuff is here. But I'm not a purist as much as you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's fine. I mean, it was my initial reaction was I wanted to try the old raid frames as a healer. I thought it would be interesting, but no, this is okay. This is actually way better, and I kind of like it. I never used any kind of healing add-ons, and some of my guild members kind of dislike that because I don't see incoming heals, so it's not very optimal, you see. But I like it that way. I think it's more fun to not have those sheet add-ons. 99% of the people use it, so I need to be careful.
It's okay. I accept that I have cheat add-ons. I'm okay with it.
All right. Well, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. You can also follow the Mash Those Buttons Network at the Mash Network. If you want to send us an email, do so at wcrpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to talk to the hosts or any host on the Mash Those Buttons Network, you can do so by joining our Discord at mash.gg/discord. If you want to see us live, you can check us out live at twitch.tv/mash-those-buttons. And last but not least, you guys have been doing great for this entire show, but the Apple podcast reviews help us a lot. The ones on warcraftradio.com/directory help us a lot and help us get seen. So thank you for those and keep them coming. All right. Ryan, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at CognitionPit or on YouTube, youtube.com/cognitivepit. I've been putting in a lot of time in beta doing some hour grinds at a lot of different spots, and I'm starting to put those videos out so you can see when your dungeon group falls apart and you have to go grind for some primals to level because you're not doing any quests till 70. Then you can check out those and see where the best primal grinding spots are.
Yep, they're very chill, relaxed videos, so check them out. And Mel, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mel Overwatch, or you can find me on Whitemane on Mel Arena.
All right. And Dunedain, where can we find you? Plug everything.
Well, I do have a YouTube channel, but at the moment I don't put any content on it other than the Good Morning Azeroth shows. You can actually find all of them from the beginning, the very first one, till the most recent. I don't know if I upload that one actually, but everything is on there, and you can just find it. I think it's called Dunedain, my channel. That's it, like Dunedain 77 maybe. That might be the Twitch one. I don't exactly know, to be honest. If you want to find me, just type in Dunedain, like GMA or WoW or Classic or whatever in YouTube, and you will get there. Or Good Morning Azeroth, and you will see it, because I think my channel pops up for the episodes as well, somewhere in the top 3. I used to stream a little bit on Twitch, but that's a long time ago. And I think WoW is pretty hard to stream, to be honest. I might try it again in the future, but I think if I stream anything, it's probably more something like Hearthstone, which I think is easier to stream.
Definitely.
Yeah, other than that, we do have the guild Discord, but it's kind of hard to link it here. So if you want to find that, you will find it on in the comments on my YouTube channel, and then you can come and say hi.
Awesome. And that's Dunedain for any American people, because we would probably say Dunedain if we were doing it. So Dunedain, please go check out his YouTube, and yeah. Right. You can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. You can also find me from time to time streaming on twitch.tv/BlazinBob. Let's get out of here, guys. Good show. Thank you again for coming.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.